Two urban explorers slip through a rusted gate into the Paris catacombs chasing exclusive footage. Curiosity drags them down an unmarked, bricked-off corridor, and something older than them wakes and refuses to let them leave. It's late and the city above feels distant, muffled cars, a few drunk laughs. We slip past a rusted barrier and the light dies behind us. My flashlight cuts a thin path through damp air. Skulls press along the walls like trophies, femurs stacked in neat rows that look deliberate, not accidental. Every step makes the bones click softly and the air tastes of old chalk and mildew. I film as we move. I say low, "Keep your light steady." Jonas answers with a short laugh that sounds wrong in this place. Sound here bends, my voice comes back late and thin, doubled and tripled. It feels like the tunnels are testing us, listening. The map on my phone won't hold a charge long, but it's enough to keep us moving. We talk about views and what will make people click. It keeps my mouth occupied and fear from growing a name. At a narrow bend the tunnel opens and the echo throws our words back at us, and I feel a shiver crawl down my spine. Jonas jokes about ghosts and then goes quiet when his own voice answers him. The flashlight beam grazes graffiti, names, dates, a crude heart, and symbols I don't recognize. I film them even though I don't know why. The light makes a small island of certainty. Past it everything fades. Our breaths hang in that island. When we stop speaking, the darkness pulls at the edges of sound. It feels like the tunnel is swallowing our voices. I grip the camera tighter and keep moving, because staying still feels like letting the place notice us. We push deeper and the ceiling tightens, the walls sweat. My flashlight reveals faded graffiti, names and dates from another century, and strange looping symbols that don't match any map. I hold the camera closer to the wall while Jonas brushes a mark with a gloved finger and says, "There's no exit here on the plans." His breath fogs in the beam. Somewhere ahead a draft moves like a hand. It shouldn't be here, no vents, no stairwells, and the air is colder and sharper as if it comes from a throat. We trade nervous jokes that land flat. My phone tells me our GPS is dead and the cave feels farther from the surface. Jonas whispers, "Did you hear that?" I only hear my heartbeat, then the draft again, stronger, carrying something that could be a whisper or wind pressed through tiny bone holes. The hair on my arms lifts and I film the direction of the sound, watching the beam tremble. The walls darken with moisture and a smell like old leather comes and goes. We move along the corridor, careful not to kick loose the small stones underfoot. Each small noise multiplies. I tell myself the draft is a pocket of collapsed air and keep walking. Jonas runs a hand over his neck and says, "Clipped, keep moving." The tunnel answers with a distant, hollow whisper and disappears around a blind corner. We find it by accident. One moment the passage is a familiar grid of ash and bone. The next the beam nudges a seam in the stone, bricks packed into an archway, older and uneven. There's no notation of this corridor on any map I have. The mortar looks crumbly, as if someone tried to hide the hole and then gave up. Jonas runs a gloved hand over it and snaps a photo. "Someone sealed it," he says low. "Recently, look at this." A finger-sized gap lets colder air slip out like breath. Curiosity steals the sensible part of me. We trade the usual excuses, content, discovery, but under that is a sharper need to see something no one else has. I wedge the head of my crowbar into the gap and brace it. The bricks complain, then give with a wet, hollow sound. Dust pinches my nose and throat. We clear stones into a small pile and the tunnel opens onto worse dark. My camera sees nothing beyond the hole, but the lens senses motion, like a shape that remembers how to be still. A soft scuttle answers our light, quick and too small for anything common in the catacombs. Jonas starts, barely audible, "Maybe we shouldn't." I cut him off with a laugh that doesn't reach my eyes and push the crowbar deeper. We break through and air rushes past us that smells like something that has been waiting. The corridor beyond is narrower and untouched in a way the main tunnels are not. There is no chalk scrawl, No names, just the cold, dry smell of stone that has seen little of human hands. The light skitters along plain walls interrupted only by small scratches. Our cameras catch dust motes, then the scratching starts. It's thin at first, like nails over old wood, then more deliberate. It travels along the wall to our left, stopping and continuing a foot away. Jonas freezes. I feel my mouth go dry. "Hear that?" he whispers. I nod and my hand trembles on the camera. We move forward in tiny steps. The beam catches a flash of something too fast to be an animal, too precise to be falling debris. The scratching becomes a rhythm and seems to come from inside the wall, behind bricks that don't match the rest. I run a gloved finger along a seam and feel a vibration, as if something on the other side is listening back. Our footage flickers where the sound is loudest. A metallic clang replies, maybe a pipe, maybe a dropped tool too sharp to dismiss. The tunnel answers with silence that feels full, and the scratches start again, nearer and more deliberate. The passage slopes and the air grows older and thicker with each step. We turn a slim bend and the ceiling narrows until we have to duck. Loose stone falls from above and grazes Jonas's shoulder. He curses and presses himself flat to the wall while I check the beam. The light trembles when I raise it. My heart is a hard drum in my throat. We steady ourselves and go on, slower, listening. The tunnel pinches, then opens into a slight hollow where the walls seem to press inward. My foot hits something soft on the ground and I shine the light down. A patch of dark cloth, rotten and slimed with moisture. It's a coat older than anything we'd expect, molded and left as if someone walked away in a hurry. Jonas kicks it aside and the fabric gives with a wet sound. We joke to cover the worry. "Prize find," I say, but it's a small laugh thrown at my fear. The rumble returns, louder like the tunnel's shifting. Dust trembles underfoot and a low, wet growl slips from deeper around a corner. It isn't animal and it isn't human. Jonas grabs my arm. "We should go," he says, and I feel the tunnel tighten as if it means to keep us. We find a fork and the map favors one way while my gut tugs the other. We argue in whispers like quarrels in sleep. Jonas picks left. I stare at the right where the flashlight light seems thinner and choose it. Small rebellions feel like control here. As we step, my flashlight stutters and dies for a breath. Darkness drops on us like a blanket and the sudden quiet is louder than a scream. I fumble for the spare. It's warm in my pocket. Jonas breathes close to my ear, too close, and mutters, "You sure?" The light clicks back, dull and pulsing. Shadows that did not belong move along the walls, their edges shifting in ways that make my eyes ache. For a second I see movement behind us on the left path, a shadow folding into the stone. Footsteps, not ours, echo from the tunnel we didn't take. They are careful, testing a route. We hurry forward and the decision eats at me. Behind the echo fades, but the feeling of being watched thickens. Every time my light lands on a wall, it feels like I'm exposing something that wants to stay hidden. Jonas keeps pace, breath shallow. Our steps fall unevenly, and the tunnel narrows. We stop to watch footage on a tiny camera screen, its habit a check. In a freeze frame, my stomach lurches, a shape hunched behind us at the fork, just out of clear view. Not a trick, a shoulder, a dark seam where a face should be. Jonas swears under his breath. "Did you see that?" he asks. The question is stupid and small, of course I saw it. We argue quietly about turning back. I say no with a thin voice. Turning back feels like admitting we were wrong to come. Jonas points out the risks, collapsed stones, dead batteries. He's practical and shaking. I'm stubborn. We press on, convincing ourselves the figure was a trick of light. The tunnel hums with a low vibration now, like a violin string tuned to our nerves. Our lights catch fresh gouges in the wall, long, precise marks that look like fingers. I film them because recording feels like proof. A chill slides along the back of my neck as if something walks the tunnel behind us and breathes without sound. We keep walking. The feeling that we were watched becomes the knowledge that we still are. The tunnel trembles and we feel it in our teeth first. A distant rolling rumble that makes dust fall from the ceiling like rain. The light throws jagged shapes and we pick up pace. The vibration grows into a bass note that maps itself into the walls. My phone records it as a hum. The sound seems to come from everywhere and nowhere and shifts as we move. I try not to think about the figures we glimpsed. Jonah says between tight breaths, it knows we're here. I laugh sharp and quick because admitting that is harder than fear. We start to jog and stones skitter under our boots. The air grows thinner and my flashlight feels feeble against the black. Whispers come back closer this time, more voices than one, layered and wet. They are not words I can parse, they are syllables scraped from the roof of a throat. Dust coats the back of my tongue when I breathe, and the rumble spikes into a concussive shudder that makes grit fall at our feet. The tunnel before us narrows and disappears into a black pitch that seems to breathe. I catch Jonas's hand briefly, a reflex anchor in a place without anchors, and he squeezes back. The vibration follows like a shadow, a thing that remembers the sound of trespass. We keep moving because stopping would be worse. The tunnel opens into a wider chamber and the air moves differently here. It's heavier as if the space holds its breath. Our beams reveal a patch of fabric on the floor, a coat, molded and torn, left as if the owner vanished. Footprints streak the dust, smeared like someone walked through a shallow pool of fear. We tell ourselves someone else was here and left. It's a thin comfort. I film every corner while Jonas runs a gloved hand through the dust and finds a brittle scrap of paper. The ink has flaked away in places, but the word leave is still legible. We exchange looks. The idea that another person survived loosens my chest for a second. The scratching starts again, close now, inside the wall next to us and urgent, like nails wanting to break free. My beam catches a wet smear on the stone, old and dark, and I have to look away. We try to be practical, check exits, listen for any route back. The chamber gives no reassurance. The coat feels like a warning. Jonas mutters, maybe they didn't make it out. His voice is almost a prayer and I have nothing to say. The scratching stops and a single sharp sound splits the air until the silence presses against our ears. We move on more careful now, voices thin and the chamber opens into a descending path. The air grows colder and a faint humming, like a wrong lullaby, slides along the stone. Less than a minute after we pass, the footing behind us betrays a crackle and then a fall. Stone collapses with a sound like a body hitting water, dust explodes into the air and our light blinks with it. We spin but the exit has become a wall of rubble, panic hits bright and stupid. Jonas slams his shoulder into the pile and I try to help. The stone feels solid and final. We are sealed. The world narrows to the two of us and whatever waits below. The humming shifts, discordant, and something low and wrong threads through it. There's nowhere to go back to now. Every choice collapses into the need to survive. We set down packs and check lights like people counting cash before a robbery. The temperature drops and my breath puffs white in the beam. A distant sound echoes down the descending path, human cadence, maybe singing but off-key, like a toy played by fingers that don't know songs. We steel ourselves and step down. Batteries have become currency and one flashlight dies with a soft, accusing click. The remaining light is shared between us. For a moment we are hands and breath and a small circle of lamp. My camera keeps recording, the red rec dot obscene in the dark. A darker shape flashes across the edge of light, too quick to follow. We squeeze through a tight place where the ceiling presses low. The air here is dry as if the corridor hasn't seen a living thing in years. The walls are close enough to touch both sides, and I run fingers along carved symbols that whisper back with a faint phosphorescence. Jonah says we shouldn't have broken that wall. His voice is small and I don't argue. The dark shape appears again, closer, then gone. A smell, metal and hair hits me and I gag. We slow because speed in this weakened light feels like stumbling in a dream. Every noise is magnified. The shared light shrinks when the headlamp's battery drops and the corridor seems to fold on us. We press forward because that's the only direction left. My shoulder rubs against Jonah's as we move single file. The phosphorescent symbols glow faintly and our shadows pull thin behind us. I keep filming because it's the one steady thing I have. The walls close so tight we breathe them. Symbols cover everything now, scratched, carved, painted in a hurry. As we pass, a faint glow begins along the lines, subtle at first like embers waking. We both stop and the glow spreads with our shoulders, throwing blue-green light across our faces. The symbols pulse slightly when we look at them, and my skin prickles as if the marks are reading me. We don't touch them again, but the light seems to follow. I film the walls despite shaking hands, and Jonas moves first while I keep my shoulder on his back like a small comfort. The corridor narrows until we must go single file, and the glowing symbols make shadows swim across our hands. The feeling of being observed becomes a weight on my collarbone. Beyond the narrowest point, the tunnel opens without warning. The glow dies for a second like a switch being turned off, and then the vast dark inhales us. I feel very small. Something shifted behind us as if the passage closed, and we keep moving because stopping feels like asking the darkness to look directly at us. Jonas whispers, "Stay close." I nod, and we walk into the void. We step into the cavern, and the space swallows our small lights, returning them as thin echoes. The temperature drops and our breath blooms white. The beam sketches distant walls that disappear into black, and we feel exposed, like animals in a clearing. I film a slow panorama. Scattered across the floor are artifacts, rusted blades, bent metal, splintered wood, half-buried bones that don't match the neat rows above. It looks like a place where something happened and was left to rot. The scale of it makes my chest tight. Footsteps come from the perimeter, soft at first, like someone walking on packed sand in the far dark. They close in one by one until the cavern feels like a stage, and we are its center. Jonas whispers, "Now what?" I have no plan, and my voice is small. The footsteps circle, and the wet sound of nails on stone creeps at the edge of hearing. The cold is a hand at my back. We are not in a natural cave. It is a room made to be feared. I keep filming because it's what I know to do when there is no plan. There are relics here that belong to a history we don't know. A rusted blade sticking from sand like a tooth, old tools tossed as if work stopped mid-motion. The ground breathes a long, ugly event, and we pick through the detritus looking for proof or explanation. We search with a distracted rigor, hands trembling. Shadows near the walls begin to move differently, not just as play from our lights, but as mass edging closer. They gather like smoke, and the hairs on my neck lift. The temperature drops again, and the shadows lean into the weak light, reluctant but intentional. The scratches we followed are everywhere now and stained, like the marks were made with tools meant for bone. Jonas finds a shard with a dark crust and holds it up as if it might be a talisman. "We should go," he says, voice thin. I agree, but the idea of turning our backs feels wrong. The shadows slide in close until they feel like curtains. They are not quite figures, but they bend in almost deliberate ways. The fear is no longer theoretical. It hums against the edge of our bones. I keep the camera moving because stopping would be worse. The sound hits first, a shriek high and animal that splits the cavern into shards. Shapes step from the darker edges like wood forced under pressure, limbs too long in places, faces only suggestions, torsos that drink light instead of reflecting it. We back into each other, packs bumping, feet scraping for purchase on a floor that feels suddenly tilted. Jonas grabs my arm and his fingers are ice. "Run," he says, but there's nowhere safe to run. They close without running, the first reaching us and the air growing heavier as if gravity thickens. It smells of old metal and something sweeter, rot, and the memory of recent meat. My camera records mechanically, and the light refuses to reveal a face. The more I look, the less human they are. They emit a chittering that crawls under my skin like cold water. One presses a hand to the stone beside me and then to my chest, not hard but anchoring, testing weight. The touch is cold and leaves a smear that glitters in the beam. Jonas cries out and sound fractures in the echoes. We fall back until the cavern ring is black and shapes and us. My legs move on automatic while my mind lists ways this could end. They don't need speed, only patience. They fold over us like a slow curtain, and I cannot tell if I scream. The camera keeps recording and the light cuts for a sliver, a mouth like a cave of teeth leans down. I did not save him. I watched them die.